Thank you for coming. Thank you, Amanda and Techweek, for this opportunity as well. So my name is Sairam Rangachari. I'm Vice President of Technology for Capital One in Chicago. And I'm here to talk about growth from the perspective of Capital One. And so growth means a lot of things to a lot of people. It depends on your journey, where you are in the company, your motives. But at Capital One, as we think about growth, we think about, we've got 65 million plus customers. We're growing. So as we think about growth, it truly is about building deep and meaningful relationships with our customers. That's a mouthful. I'm going to come back and demystify this. But before I jump in, I thought I can start with some context. So evolution of banking, and it's very high level. It only goes back a couple of decades. I didn't start from the 1800s or anything like that. But when you think about 2 or 3 decades back, banking used to be personal. It used to be very advisory. You had that personal human connection, but the biggest problem was it wasn't accessible for most people. It wasn't affordable. It wasn't scalable. And then the age of technology came about, right? And we started focusing a lot on scale. We started focusing a lot on making it accessible to people. But then we started losing that personal connection. Everything became transactional. We focused a lot on self-service, empowering people. You had a device, you had internet, you can go on and do a lot of things. But we started losing that human connection. We believe the next evolution of banking, and I think this applies to most industries, but speaking from the perspective of banking, we think the next evolution is really about humanizing the technology. How could we leverage the ease of access and the experience of digital capabilities, the scale that technology scale, and the other awesome things that technology brings, and kind of sprinkle in that human connection. We think that is the next evolution of banking. And today I'm going to talk about how we as a company are transforming ourselves and preparing to get there. So, I said deep and meaningful relationship, and what does that really mean for us? It means a couple of things for us, right? So one is, adapting to the changing consumer behavior. We live in a world where everything's real time, everything is on demand, whether it's your ride, whether it's your food, groceries, dry cleaning. I know there's a ton of dry cleaning startups in Chicago now. And everything is on demand and everything's real time. But when you think about your bill payment, it takes days. It takes multiple days for the bill payment to go through. You do an ACH, it takes multiple days for that to happen. We think this is unacceptable and this needs to change. When I talk about deep and meaningful relationship, I also mean how can we get deeply embedded into our customers' financial lives? So here's a story of one of our apps, CreditWise. Basically, CreditWise is like Credit Karma, allows you to track your credit score. It's got a fantastic recommendation engine on how to improve your credit. So one of our customers walks into a car dealership, loves the car, picks it up, and then goes through the whole process, gets rejected for financing, and the reason that's cited is, hey, you don't have a great credit score, what's going on? Let's look at some other options. The customer pulls up the CreditWise apps, is now empowered, right? Looks it up and says, no, I disagree, and starts talking to the car dealership and the financing arm and reverse the decision, right? So the customer is empowered with information. And as we looked at it and we started these patterns emerging, we took it to the next step and we launched a product called Auto Navigator, which allows our customers to pre-qualify and walk into a dealership with the right financing option. They don't have to use it. They can go with other options, but now the customer is empowered. And we believe in ourselves getting deeply embedded into our customers' lives. And this extends to the physical world as well, right? We are being very intentional, purposeful about how we connect with our customers, even in the offline, real world. The image you're looking at, it's not the new Starbucks cafe, it is the Capital One cafe, right? Which is essentially the new bank. This is how our banks are beginning to look. This is how we believe that we need to fit into the customer's life, and we need to create an experience where we fit in as opposed to the other way around. A customer can come in here, walk in, right, recharge their bank account, recharge their devices, and recharge themselves while doing all their financing, while taking care of all their financing needs. When we did our research, we know from research that 60% of our banking customers engage us online and digitally on a weekly basis. Of those people, a vast majority, 87%, crave for some real human interaction and want something like this. So we are working our ways, we are reinventing ourselves to make some of these things happen. I don't know how many of you have been to the Capital One Cafe in Chicago. We just opened a new one in Lincoln Park. It is fantastic. I highly encourage you to go grab a cup of coffee there. So we talked about this meaningful, deep and meaningful relationship as the future of our growth. So how are we driving it, right? And I want to talk to you about the 4 points today. Not that it's limited to these things, but these are the 4 levers that we are pulling, and I wanted to kind of share some insight on those things. The first one is transforming our technology. For context, right, like if your company is born today, you're born in the cloud era. You take advantage of everything in the cloud. If you were born in the 90s and the 2000s, you were in the distributed computing era and you have to do the migration. And there's tons of companies that have done it. If you were born prior to that, you have mainframes, you have distributed computing, and you have all the cloud stuff. The reason I put this slide together for you guys is to kind of show the magnitude of transformation from a technology perspective that is happening at our company. One of our key levers, key drivers for our technology transformation is us embracing the new standards of major technology companies. That starts with us embracing the public cloud. We are investing huge into the public cloud. We're big in AWS right now. We are expanding to other public cloud areas. We want to be in the multi-cloud. We're on a multi-cloud journey. Everything that we do is APIs and microservices, right? Close to, I don't want to say 100%, but majority, most of what we do today, anything new that we build, is in the cloud, is a microservice. We're embracing open source in a huge way. We're not just big consumers of open source. Our engineering team is actively encouraged to contribute back, and we're really proud of our contributions to date. We've got some amazing, we've taken some of the pain points that we have on our journeys, and we've created tools, and now we're open sourcing that for the community. I couldn't move past the technology transformation without talking about machine learning. And I think everybody here would agree, machine learning is coming in a huge way. It's going to be extremely disruptive for a lot of industries. We're embracing it head on, right? We're investing big. I don't think you can see it clearly, but the example that's on the visual is a product called Second Look. Basically what Second Look does, what Second Look started as was a tool that helped our customers identify any double charges and protect them that way. But it's taken a life on its own. We're leveraging machine learning to understand patterns where we're not just protecting them from fraudulent charges and double charges and little things like that. We are taking it to understand how can we make your next holiday gifting season better. We're trying to learn from what happened, and then we're trying to understand the patterns, and we can be proactive there. We're working on machine learning tools that can help travel your next, that can help you create the best experience for your next travel. So machine learning is permeating through the company at a very, very fast pace. And it's not just stopping at a couple of tools. We've got a number of areas where we're investing heavily in machine learning. So you've got, we talked about the fraud detection. We talked about some of the experience creation. Cybersecurity is another area where we're investing heavily in machine learning, and we're seeing some amazing results. We've got a project called Purple Rain, essentially where we are deploying bots to identify and kill malware anywhere in our network. And it's been fantastic. I talked about the technology transformation, as one of the 4 things, but we knew we had to change our mindset. we had to create a growth mindset. We had to change that from within. We know innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum, so we can't just look inwards, come up with the best ideas, and then roll it out and assume everything to be great. We are actively looking at what is happening outside of our ecosystem and engaging with them, right? So I want to talk a little bit about Capital One Labs. And this is, we have a few different assets that help us connect to the external world. Capital One Labs is one such key initiative. And you know, where I think Amanda from Techweek asked me a couple of days back, it's like, hey, Capital One Labs sounds really cool. What's going on there? I explained what was going on. And then the next question was, why is it different? This is where we think it's different. I don't think this, this is unique to just us, but this is our evolution to Capital One Labs. The historical issue with the labs is you create an entity in isolation that goes on, does the shiniest things, comes back searching for the problem that they just solved, right? There's a big disconnect in there. We believe that innovation, that we're going to push ourselves forward through a combination of push and pull, right? We need to push our operators from the inside and get them out of their comfort zone while we have a magnet like labs that's looking at the next frontier and partnering with the latest ideas and technologies, pulling us from the outside. And I think this is where our labs have done a great job, continue to do a great job. I want to spend a minute talking about our growth ventures. This is our corporate venture capital arm. We started this a few years back. We've engaged hundreds of companies through this means, right? We have invested in a handful of them. We've sourced a couple of acquisitions through this arm. But growth ventures is really helping our companies connect with the disruptors of today and the inventors of tomorrow. And it's been fantastic. And I'm looking forward to more things. One other thing that came out of it was the scan trips. We call them scan trips. This is where we get executives from a line of business, go into cities like Chicago and San Francisco and New York, where people are innovating and disrupting, and actively listen to pitches and trigger some partnerships from there. Very recently, a couple of months back, we had a group of executives come here in Chicago, and we listened to 4 enterprising startups in Chicago, based in Chicago, and there's 3 active pilots happening right now. This is a great way for us to get to know the next level of innovation. This is a great opportunity for the startups to partner with a brand like Capital One as well. So we're very excited about that. And the results are showing, right? I mean, as part of our mission, we want to meet our customers where they want to be met. We want to service them where it's most convenient for them. Whether that's SMS, we just launched our intelligent messaging app called Eno. That's one spelled backwards, right? It's gender neutral for those of you that are curious. We've got Capital One Wallet. This is our cross-functional device. If you like being on the mobile computer, this is the way to engage with us. And we're launching Alexa skills and Google Voice skills so you can use voice to connect with us. But the idea is we want to connect with customers where it fits naturally into their lives. This is a view of Eno. I wasn't sure about the audio, the AV equipment here. There's an amazing video of Eno. I highly encourage you guys to go check that out. But Eno is based on natural language processing. This is conversational commerce, right? This is conversational transactions. You're now no longer just asking pre-baked questions. You can ask whatever you want. Eno tries to learn and converse with you and service you. It's in beta. We're rolling this out to all of our customers later this year. So we talked about technology transformation. We talked about our mindset, but we knew we had to walk the walk. We had to change the way how we were working. This whole top-down, go into a room, plan for months, come out, fails, don't talk about it, move on to the next project, doesn't work, right? Like, we had to be more nimble. There's 2 things that I want to talk about that I'm extremely proud of. One is customers are at the forefront of everything we do now, starting with design thinking. Any solution our teams come up with, we start with what the customer is trying to solve for and how it fits into their journey, as opposed to how are we set up to solve for it, or what we think we need to solve for. The same thing applies for how our business processes are structured today. Historically, companies structured business process around efficiency, dollar savings, because the idea was you save money, and then that translates into better products and R&D for your customers. But today, we are restructuring our business processes for customer delight. We want to be associated, we want to weave together a process that maximizes customer delight. That's a big change. And the results are showing, right? On the right side, you see our mobile app, very highly rated on the App Store. J.D. Power awarded Capital One the highest in customer satisfaction for a banking app. So we know it's working. I want to talk about another aspect of how we work, Agile, right? We want to get to customers as early and as continuously as possible. That wasn't historically the case. We want to embrace and cultivate and create a bias even for a fail-fast approach so we can learn, iterate, and move on. If you're a startup, you're doing this naturally. But when you're a 40,000-member company, when you have 40,000 teammates, this takes work because we've got to invest in this. We've got to incentivize people. We've got to create this mindset. It's working. I think almost all of our tech teams are agile, and business and other teams are embracing this very rapidly. This is really exciting for us. We know none of this is possible without our focus on our people, right? You always need the right people to make all of these things happen. Infrastructurally, structurally, it's great that we're setting all these things up, but if we're not able to attract the right people and retain the right people, none of this would be possible. So our people strategy continues to focus on three things. Continue attracting great people. Part of that is coming out to events like this and sharing our story. I walk around, I go to a lot of these events, and it's exciting to hear startups talk about the disruption that they're creating. But there's so much innovation happening in bigger companies. There is so much hunger for transformation in bigger companies. Because frankly, the bigger companies know that they have to reinvent themselves or they get disrupted. So part of it is coming out here, hopefully inspire you by sharing our story, right? But we have to continue attracting great talent, so there's a huge emphasis on this. Part of it is, we got the great people in. Now you got to empower them to do the greatest work of their lives. That's not easy, right? And that's not easy if your decision making is still command and control and you're demotivating them on every turn. So this is a huge focus for Capital One, where we want to localize decision making and empower people to kind of move forward. If I can go off on a tangent, I want to share a story with you. We call it the Surprise and Delight Program. And basically what it does is it empowers our customer service agents to make decisions that could potentially surprise and delight our customers. And I don't know how many of you have heard this story. This went very, very viral. So there was this customer of ours, planned her wedding, booked her honeymoon, bought the dress, and then they broke up. And she moved out, and got into, moved out, settling up a new place, has to buy her furniture and everything. Credit card gets flagged for fraud because different address, different buying patterns. She calls us up, talks to the agent, explains the situation. The agent is so moved. She thought this was a surprise and delight moment. She said, you know what, you've gone through a lot. I'm going to give you 4,500 travel points. Go have a vacation. And this customer was so moved, so excited, exactly what she needed, right? That seems like a tough situation. She goes on a vacation and does her thing. A couple of days later, she gets a bouquet of flowers at her old address, which happened to be the boyfriend's address. And the boyfriend texts her and says, hey, you got a bouquet of flowers here. And she's thinking, who's bold enough to ask me out a few days after breakup? She goes there, checks it out. It's from the agent at Capital One. She was so moved. She was so delighted. Goes on Facebook, shares her story. The story just goes viral, right? This gets featured on the Ellen show. But the reason I shared this is really to point out This is the power of decentralizing decision-making and empowering people. This did not happen through a chain of command process. This was a spur of the moment that the agent triggered, made it happen. We have so many of these stories, not just in the agents, but everyday digital product technology. We're making decisions. Of course, the challenge is how do you stay aligned as all these local decisions get made, but we're working on it. If we talk about people, I have to mention our emphasis on investing in our people. We need to care about their continued development. And we've got a ton of programs, from leadership development programs to campus programs like the Quota and the technology development program, where we're hiring stars straight out of school, getting them into a rotation program at Capital One so they're equipped to take on any challenge that life throws at them, technologically. And then we've got the tech college, which continues to grow into like a university at some point, because this is an opportunity for our existing team members, our stars, to kind of cross-skill, upskill, keep up. So we're investing big in continuous development of our team members. I want to spend a minute talking about our Quotas program, right? So Quotas is such a fantastic program. I love it. Basically, this is where our engineers are able to engage local middle school students and help them, ignite a passion for STEM, teach them some coding. What we thought was the communities would appreciate it. I think what we found out was our team members love it. They are so enthusiastic about volunteering. They're so enthusiastic that Capital One is investing in their local communities and giving them a chance and recognizing that for that. So this has been such a success for Capital One, and we expect to do way more of this. And they're all translating, right? Shameless plug, that's a picture of me there. This is Capital One Chicago. And this is translating. We have fun while we do all of these things, and people are recognizing, whether it's the local magazines like Chicago Tribune or newspapers like Chicago Tribune, recognizing it as one of the best workplaces in Chicago. We are the Fortune nationally, or some of these other elite magazines. We routinely rank very high as one of the best workplaces to work for, one of the best workplace cultures. We're extremely proud of it. And it shows. I don't know how many of you went to the Capital One event on Tuesday. It was fun. Thank you. That would have been awkward if nobody else nodded. She doesn't work for Capital One, I think. So listen, at the heart of it, for us, it's really about empowering our customers so they can be confident with their relationship with their money. To do that, we're reinventing banking, making things simple, straightforward, most importantly, creating an experience that fits into their lives. I keep going back to that because that's what growth means to us. I hope me sharing our story today inspires you and helps you grow your business. I want to thank Techweek again for the opportunity. I want to thank you guys for being a great audience. Thank you.